Welcome to the Way of the Disciple, designed to equip everyday people to walk in the way of Jesus and help others do the same. This training follows our discipleship process here at New Story: connect, imitate, and influence. Each week, we'll walk through a key part of that process with practical tools and teaching to show that discipling someone is possible, and God can use you to play a part in growing God's kingdom, person by person, family by family, generation by generation. In the description below each weekly episode, you'll find the worksheets used in the class so that you can have the same tools in your hands. We're glad you're here. Let's step into the way of the disciple together. Yeah, so we're going to get rolling here in week 3 of the way of the disciple. And so as we start, does anyone remember our process as a church? What is our 3-step process of our church? Yeah, so our overall vision is to see more and better followers of Jesus. Yeah.
But I know you wanted like 10.
That's a vision for this year, but the 3-step process. Connect is the first one. Yeah, because we believe you grow when you connect.
Influence.
And then, yeah. Imitate. Yeah, we believe you grow when you imitate the life of Jesus. And then the third one is influence. And we believe you grow when you influence others toward Jesus. Now, as we get rolling here, you see the definition we've been working with. Before I put it on the screen, it says discipleship is intentionally entering into relationships to help others follow Jesus, be changed by Jesus. And what do you think that last one's going to be? Obey? Maybe. Obey something. Okay, so mission's the second word. Yeah, so join the mission of Jesus. So that's our goal here at New Story. We want ultimately end our discipleship. I do this every time. Where's my mouse? Ultimately, every time we come through here, discipleship is intentionally entering into relationships to help people follow Jesus, be changed by Jesus, and join the mission of Jesus. Because that's what we talked about in Matthew 28. What is the last couple verses of the Bible in Matthew chapter 28? It says, go therefore and make disciples. And so we want us in our discipleship process to be able to have people join the mission of Jesus. So that's what we're trying to do here. And so the first week we talked about connect. We talked about Colossians chapter 1, where it says others-oriented life. And so as we get into this third step of our process, influence, we do believe you grow when you influence others toward Jesus. And part of our responsibility in this is leading them to join the mission of Jesus. So what are we talking about today? Helping them join the mission of Jesus, okay? And so as we get into week 3, I want us to keep reminding us of Colossians chapter 1, that in discipleship, we have to have a long-term thinking. As in this long-term thinking, as we proclaim Him, that is Christ, and in our discipleship, we're warning and teaching everyone with all wisdom so that we may present everyone mature in Christ. And Paul's going to say, I labor for this reason, to proclaim Christ now, to present them fully mature later. So in discipleship, it's not short-term. It's what? Long-term thinking, okay? And so as we get into this morning, we're going to talk about a lot of different things, but mainly what influencing requires from us. So, as we get in here, influence others requires us to be trustworthy. So we're going to talk more on this, but it's built on grace and truth and consistency and presence. It must also be sustainable, meaning it's grounded in healthy spiritual, emotional, and time rhythms that prevent burnout and protect our souls and them. And then the last thing, it must be multiplying. So this is where joining the mission of God comes into play. So equipping others not just to grow, but to help someone else grow too. And so part of, in this, I hope you guys get to see that in our first week, it was very relational, right? About building relational trust. And we asked those questions. And it was a very easy way to see that we can build relational trust with people. And then we're going to work through the first part of this now, is being trustworthy. And in being trustworthy, it's what keeps people coming back when they fail, fall, or feel stuck. Because often when I'm in ministry, when I've been discipling someone, you see people go through all these steps, especially if you've been with them for a long time. At some point in your discipleship relationship, you're going to see someone fail, you're going to see someone fall, or just simply feel stuck. And so then when those things happen, what do we do? Well, being trustworthy is going to help with those things. And so I'll just ask you real quick, what does that look like, being trustworthy?
Being present.
Being present, yeah.
Doing what you say you're going to do.
Yeah, so follow through, doing what you say you're going to do. That's great.
Keep things confidential.
Yeah, confidential. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So basically, hey, what happens in this, like we're not just going to be like, man, I can't believe, you want to hear what Mike's got into? Oh, man, Mike's crazy. You might already think that, but yeah, what else?
Willing to be inconvenienced.
Willing to be inconvenienced. Yeah, we're going to get to that in a second, but discipleship relationships take a lot of time and a lot of effort and being interruptible. Yeah, for sure. And so I just had a couple of things that in this being trustworthy is that the idea, the first thing you're going to see here is grace creates safety. Because we're going to be working with people in our discipleship relationships when they fail, when they fall, or they feel stuck. And so in this, grace is one of these requirements from us in discipleship relationships. And why we want to show grace in these moments is because it creates safety for them. And really, like I try to put some kind of phrase there is, I'm not going anywhere. So when they do fail, fall, or feel stuck, they know and they can trust you being like, hey, I'm still here. And so you have this grace picked up into this relationship. And some real life examples that I've seen is like a young man one time confessed he was watching porn again. And that was, especially in student ministry, you see that all the time. And it really forces you to pause, breathe, and be like, okay, thanks for sharing that, because that's a very vulnerable thing. And you can think through some times when maybe either someone has confessed sin to you, or they confess something really hard to you, or maybe you're the one confessing something. To be able to take that step to actually share, hey, this is what I'm going through, that's a lot of vulnerability you have to put forth. But what's the goal in discipleship? You're intentionally entering into a relationship, so you've spent so much time and effort and prayer for this person, so that way if something happens when they fall, fail, or feel stuck, they know you're going to offer them grace in that moment. And really, I was just thinking about, I'm trying to think of a Bible passage, John 8, that's what Jesus models for us. They get in that passage with the women caught. He says, no one, Lord, she answered, neither do I condemn you. Now go, from now on, do not sin anymore. So, part of what we do in this grace in creating safety is that grace provides the runway for then the next thing, truth. And truth gives direction for people. The phrase you could say, I love you enough to say what's real. And I want to caveat this is you've spent a lot of time building up a relationship with this person you're discipling. Because often you'll hear people say, hey, this is just the truth. I love you enough to say what's real. But if they don't spend the time building their relationship, what happens? The truth is not heard, not received, and it doesn't go well often. So I'll give you some real life examples, again, that I felt, Bible passage, of course, we've heard this one before, speaking the truth in love, let us grow in every way into him who is the head, Christ. Again, worked with students, so I'm pulling from students, and this is an easy one that you see in students is gossip. Now, what is gossip? Spreading rumors, yeah. So like gossip is happening. So we had this in our youth group, and one of our girls would hear something, and then like a prayer request is often found in a prayer request, which sometimes prayer requests can turn into gossip circles really easily. Yeah. And so then I know that girl heard that in the prayer circle. And she was on our lead team. So we had a lead team of students, about 10 to 12 students, where they were intentional. They had to sign a contract. The parents had to sign it with them to saying, hey, if something happens, you are to be held accountable if you're not displaying Christ-likeness. And well, this girl shared some text messages and that I happened to see. And so, of course, the girl that said, hey, I'm trying to be vulnerable, and you use that as a weapon against me. And so then you have to go and correct somebody in that moment. And that's a difficult thing. Like, that's not great. That's not fun. But with the student is I've known that student for 3 years. But because of the relationship I built with her, that she knows she could come to me and be like, hey, you didn't see what happened here, but you really hurt this person in the process that you're supposed to be working with. And so that's part of in this idea is that I could have just called her out, but it wouldn't have gave her any direction. All she would have done is been ticked at me. But I had built time building relationships. And so before we continue on to the next 3, I do want to take a second, and I like you guys talking together. I want to talk about when we get corrected and when maybe you had to correct somebody else. And so what I want you to do in your kind of your tables right here, I want you to ask 3 questions. I want you to ask, has there been a time in your life when someone corrected you spiritually? What did they do well that helped you receive it well? And then what did they do that didn't go well? And so maybe because we're trying to learn from this, in discipleship relationships, you're probably going to have to do this at some point. And so if we want to do this well, we might have to learn from maybe some not well examples. And so at this time, I want you guys to discuss these questions. Maybe either you corrected somebody or someone corrected you that didn't go well and did go well. So let's learn together. All right, so let's talk in your table groups for a minute, and then we'll come together. Okay, all right, so let's come back together real quick. So let's start first. I kind of want to hear what you guys were talking about. So let's start first with maybe someone correct you that didn't go well. What are some of the things you guys mentioned? Okay.
Well, somebody just kind of came in without me expecting it and just kind of lambasted me, basically. You know, I didn't know they were coming. I didn't expect it. I didn't know what, I had no defense. I mean, I'm just kind of like charges without giving me opportunity to speak. You know, and then they're out the doors. And they thought they handled it real well because they obviously came in with an agenda and knew exactly what they were going to say.
Right.
And here's my point. Da, 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 da. And I was blindsided. You know, I didn't know.
Yeah. So was there any? So basically, once they said their stuff, there was no like, okay, now you speak, or were they just like, here's the thing, we're done? Okay. Now, where is the, I guess not problem, I guess, yeah, okay, we'll say, what's the problem with that kind of response? Like, why did that not end well with her?
No time to explain yourself.
No time to explain?
Well, and there was no intro. Like when I want to talk to somebody, I'll say, you know, I need to talk to you about something. You know, can we meet at a certain time, at a certain place? And I will try to give them a heads up. I want to talk to you about this situation. You know,
Right, yeah.
Or I might not explain it right then, but I want to talk to you about, I want to talk to you about church, or I want to talk to you about the family, or I want to talk to you about something.
Yeah, the instance or whatever, yeah.
So they can kind of be thinking, you know, they don't know exactly what I want to talk about, but they have an idea.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, the worst is when you get a text, like, hey, I need to talk to you, and then zero context, and then you just have to wait the weekend. That is the worst. Yeah. I want to crawl in a hole, you know.
and you got to kind of give the other person an idea of what's going on, you know, before
Yeah.
you have all your points.
Yeah. Okay. What else?
On the, it didn't go well, if because in your first question, correct you spiritually, that whatever's going on is not just a matter of personal preference. That,
Yeah.
okay, you don't do it the way I do it, so therefore you're wrong.
Yeah, this wasn't spiritually.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Make sure there's some identifiable.
There's a flow.
Biblical.
Yeah, especially in like a discipleship relationship. Yeah, like or some kind of like pastoral or shepherding relationship. Yeah.
Stick with the issue and don't attack the person. Stick with the issue.
Yeah. Don't attack the person. Stick with the issue. Yeah. Yeah, and we'll talk about that. Anything else about didn't go well?
Timing, talking,
The kids are sick.
it was a random time that didn't,
Yeah, often it's like,
time to focus.
yeah, time to focus. As like sometimes people will be like, you're like going from this thing, and then they're like, hey, I need to talk to you about this, and then they like confront you about that, and then you're like,
I just finished the day.
I have to go back to do this. You got like 3 minutes to like recover. Yeah, that's not great. Sometimes it happens, and you gotta like roll with it. And okay, anything else that didn't go well? Okay, what about the times it did go well? Let's talk about that. I want to end on a happier note.
There's just like good tone, just like kindness.
Yeah. Now, what kind of tone like helps in that?
Where it didn't feel like it was an attacking. It was just a very kind, gentle.
Yeah.
When people are gentle with you, it's easier to digest the information.
Empathy.
Yeah, empathy. And sometimes it's also the words we say really matters. And so and one thing I'm going to tell you guys that we are jumping around for a second, but in the back of your pocket, your folders here, I put a whole bunch of cheat sheets. In there's a correcting conversation cheat sheet that I wanted you guys to see, but we're going to go back to this fill in the blanks. And you could read through it, but so much of this, I put this together just because I was trying to think through like how, if we want to correct people in a discipleship relationship, what are some helpful things we can do? And so I put this document together. It's not an all end all these, like you do everything here is going to go well. But what Ashley said there about the tone is important because it's number 2. It says describe, don't accuse. Be specific, not dramatic. And I even put in some things to say and some things to avoid. And the things to avoid is like, hey, you always do this. You never do this. You're just being selfish. But rather, you say, hey, I've noticed. Can I share something I've observed? What you're doing is you're allowing them to like Terry said, defend themselves, but also being like you're trying to notice a pattern going on. Number 3 is name the truth gently. Because if we're talking about spiritual issues here, if it's a preference thing, but what I do think is helpful is before you even speak, the very first thing I say is, what does it say? Check your motives. Because am I doing this to restore or am I relieve my frustration? And so is this something that is a biblical thing, a spiritual thing, or is this like my preference thing? And so kind of this is just a simple way to help you if you're in this situation where you have to correct somebody. Just a conversation flow, maybe a mental checklist for your own self. I thought that would be helpful. So anyway, thank you for your feedback on the correcting yourself. I know correcting somebody is difficult. I know when someone corrects you, it is painful and it hurts. And sometimes you have to. And sometimes you're not given prep. Sometimes you are given prep. Sometimes you're given a heads up. Sometimes you're not. And part of what's the goal in this? You're trying to help someone be changed and imitate the life of Jesus. And so learning to navigate those things in a Christ-likeness is going to help. Why? Because you've spent all this time building a relationship with this person. And they know they can trust you. You've shown them grace. You're showing them truth. And so in this correction, you're not coming out of your own agenda. You're trying to help them be more like Jesus and as well for you in the process. So let's jump back to your fill in the blanks. If you guys are already back there, I want to keep rolling.
Sir, I have one question.
Yeah.
Isn't it good to also, as you're doing it, be able to ask permission of them to maybe get a little deeper in the conversation so that you can have, if you're given a correction and you don't have maybe a small piece of it to make sure that you're really correcting properly?
Yeah, because you're asking, the goal is like what? Asking good questions like, hey, I've noticed this pattern. Like, can you help me understand kind of what's going on? So I think, yes, of course, in every situation can be way different. But I think definitely in a correcting relationship, in a discipleship relationship, I think that's fair of you to do that. That would help what Terry brought up too, is like instead of just coming with this list of all these accusations, you're asking questions to get to like, okay, what's actually going on? Because there could be, because in that what will happen is one, you'll either, oh, this is a misunderstanding, or they're trying to conceal something. That's usually what ends up happening is people people get wounded really fast. And we know our emotional tendencies, but again, the goal is what? Building relationships to help someone imitate the life of Jesus. And so correction's not fun. It's not easy. But at times we have to do it. So it's navigating that wisely. And that's actually going to lead to the third thing. It's consistency builds credibility. Because we know grace creates safety, truth gives direction, consistency builds credibility. And Mike kind of said it earlier, but you know what to expect from me. Like, I've shown you this is who I am, this is what I'm trying to live, this is who I'm trying to point you to. And so in correction, being trustworthy helps us. Consistency helps us be trustworthy. And one of the Bible verses that I picked for this is, I think, is a very helpful passage. It's an others-oriented life discipleship relationships, but I love 1 Thessalonians 2:8. It says, we cared so much for you that we were pleased to share with you not only the gospel of God, but also our own lives, because you have become dear to us. So in these discipleship relationships, I'll be honest, I've been discipling a guy for about 6 months now, and he's becoming dear to me. He came over and had dinner with us a couple weeks ago, and of course with a 4 and 2-year-old, it was chaotic. They didn't know what to think of him, and so like my 4-year-old was like sitting next to him, and he was just like watching him, and then like just staring at him, and like couldn't think. And then my 2-year-old would not even look at him. He would just put his head down in the food because he was so nervous around this guy. And then by the end of it, they were playing with him. So it's just cool to have someone come into your life and to be able to see. So I hope in this relationship with him that it continues to grow, that as he comes over to our house more often, my kids can love on him and he can love on my kids too. So, and I'll go into the fourth one. Presence earns permission. So like what you were saying, Gene, like the idea is presence in someone's life. You've done all these steps. Presence earns permissions to really ask questions. Permission earns presence. Oh, wait a minute. I think I backed it up. Yeah, flip them. My guys. My bad. You can rewrite it. My bad. Presence earns permission. I knew where I was trying to go.
We got it.
Yep. And really the thing with this is you can't disciple someone at distance. Influence is built when they know you care. That's what I really want to come down to, because practically this remembering what's going on in their life. This is like, hey, they mentioned something last week. How are you holding up? So it's just this idea that you're constantly thinking through that. And so trust isn't built in one meeting. It's built moment after moment through grace when they confess, through truth when they wander, through consistency when they ghost, through presence when they're struggling to speak. And just one last thing I'll say, it's your influence may not be loud if you do all these things, but it will be lasting. Because we proclaim Christ now to present them fully mature later. And so if we're trying to be a trustworthy person to help them follow Jesus better and join ultimately the mission of Jesus, your influence may not be loud, but it will be lasting. So now I'm going to have to move through the next couple ones here. So everyone got this last one? Yep. Okay, we're going to talk about being sustainable now in discipleship relations. And the idea is leading others without burning out. Leading others without burning out. Because in our influence, because disciple making isn't just about showing up once, it's about showing up again and again and again. And like I think Dennis said it, about being interruptible, we need really rhythms to help root ourselves. And so I'll say a few things here. Just the idea is I feel is you can't disciple everybody. That's like one rule. Like we want to disciple a lot of people, and there's some different ways of that, but what we're after here is this intentionally entering relationships. You can't just disciple everybody. You'll stretch yourself way too thin. And so you'll have to make intentional decisions about who you invest your time in, and also means learning to discern not just who needs help, but who wants it. Because sometimes you can see people in your life who you know need help, but they don't necessarily want it. And that is a hard thing. And people who maybe resist correction, don't follow through, or want your attention more than transformation, you'll eventually burn yourself out. And so in our discipleship relationships, the other thing is we need to set the pace early. We don't overload. Meaning,
Pastors never overload. What are you talking about?
never. Neither do you guys. I mean, I know you guys are all busy too. And so part of, in this being sustainable, it's very easy for us to, like for example, we have these books that we'll look at next week. It's very easy for us to pull this book out and be like, all right, here, start on chapter 2, read it, go, good, pray, Bible verse, steps, and to offer all these different things, come to our small group, do all this different stuff, and your discipler is like, huh? What do I got to do? And so we can really get overloaded really fast. And and I think Jeremy's the one who told me this, but it's like giving the picture of what it looks like for discipleship. He's like, imagine you want to help someone paint their house. And so what happens is they don't know how to do anything. So hey, I'll show up. You have the right heart, the right goal. We're going to paint your house. And you bring 12 gallons of paint over to help them finish the whole thing. But here's what you do. You back the truck up to the house. You drop off all 12 opened gallons of paint. And you say, hey, you're going to love this when it's done. Just get started. Let me know if you have questions, and then you leave. And the person stands there. It's like, I've never painted a house before. I didn't know I was supposed to mask off the windows. I didn't know to prime the surface. I didn't know to protect the sidewalk. I don't know to tape the trim. All they see is a stack of paint cans and no idea where to begin. And what happens? They feel overwhelmed. Maybe they try it for 5 minutes and they make a mess. Maybe they don't even open the lid. And eventually they just give up. Maybe they start painting and they make an absolute mess. Can we get upset with them? No. We said we'd help them, but we didn't get them started the right way. And so we do the same thing with discipling sometimes. We give them 5 spiritual habits, 3 memory verses, a Bible reading plan, a prayer structure, a book recommendation, and an invitation to a group night all in one sitting. So that's what I'm trying to say. Set the pace early, don't overload. We don't want to give them gallons of paint, but no process, pace, or personal guidance. What they need is they need us to help them start with one wall, not the whole house. And so being sustainable means we don't just give people the truth. We walk with them slowly enough that they can receive it, apply it, and grow from it. Because that's the goal about being sustainable, not just for you, but also for them. And so we need to start small. We need to learn their rhythm, and we'll look at that more next week. And so, what time is it? Okay. With this, I put up 3 guardrails. Oh, that just jumped, but 3 guardrails that I think are important. The first one being you are responsible to people, not for them. The idea is that God is the one who brings the change. And when you start feeling guilty because they're not growing, or anxious when they stop responding, or resentful of how much it's costing you, might show that you're carrying too much in this discipleship relationship. So you may need to hold off for a minute. Also, we need healthy rhythms. You'll never, the thing with this is you'll never perfectly balance everything. Life proves that wrong. Like, you never balance everything perfectly. And so with this, I haven't put this word anywhere, but you'll have to sacrifice some things for this. If disciple making matters to you, if that person in front of you, you want them to look like Jesus and present them fully mature, it's going to take some kind of sacrifice. But you also need healthy rhythms for that. And so you need to establish intentional rhythms of work, rest, engagement, and renewal. Then the last thing is healthy boundaries make healthy disciplers. And the 3 boundaries I think are helpful, which I think I was going to ask you guys, is time. The reality is, how often can I realistically meet with these people? You can't meet Monday, Wednesday, Friday because you got all these different things, but can I meet every other week? Can I meet once a week? I meet with my guy at Wednesdays at 3:30, and then sometimes I sacrifice if he has overtime. We meet at 4:30, and so then I get home later, and so sometimes you have to work through that together. Emotional, absorbing the burden or helping them take responsibility. And so with this one is they say, hey, that's really heavy, and sometimes we can take on the emotional burdens, which is partly good, but if we start carrying everything, it really starts affecting our heart a little bit. And then this one, last one is spiritual. Are you being the Holy Spirit in their life? Meaning, are they looking to you to be like Mother Mary, to be their mediator? But our goal in discipleship is to help them learn for themselves. And so if they're constantly looking to you to tell them what to do, we need to shift that to learning how to go to the Lord to figure this out on their own. I think I just have a couple more slides. Just reminding you that discipleship is intentionally entering into relationships to help people follow Jesus, be changed by Jesus, and join the mission of Jesus. So the last thing is in our influence, we need to be multiplying. And the goal is so that they can turn around and help someone else follow Jesus. In our discipleship relationships, the ultimate goal is that one day they can turn around and help others follow Jesus. And so with this, joining the mission of Jesus is a command. We see that in Matthew 28. overall, our church vision is what? To see more and better followers of Jesus, more and better disciples. And when we ended the Matthew series, we constantly said, you have a part to play. And I just want to tell you that you guys can do this. And in this process, in Colossians 1, chapter 28 and 29, I think is a very helpful passage of Scripture. We proclaim Christ now, and we teach with all wisdom and warning, so that one day we can present the person that we're discipling to Christ and say, here they are. And it's a cool thing. And what we'll do going into next week is I want to show you is we're going to walk through the disciples' path together. And so I think we're going to start with one of the books. And you guys we might have to pair up. I think we have like 10 or 12 of these. So we might have to pair up. But we're actually going to walk through this together. And why we picked this curriculum is that it's biblically grounded, but relationally flexible. It's going to give clear weekly rhythms or bi-weekly rhythms to follow together. If you go to the next week, it's going to show us, but it creates confidence for the discipler and clarity for the disciplee, and it's built to multiply. These aren't fill in the blanks, but someone else who completes it. So that's what we're going next week. Just wanted to let you guys know. And then I think it's 10:11. So I will pray, and then you guys are dismissed this week, and then I have to go upstairs. So disciple making, we can do it. And I want to see our culture here at our church where we help others follow Jesus and be changed by Jesus and ultimately join the mission of Jesus. Let me pray. God, we love you and thank you for this time just to look at what it looks like to disciple. And sometimes in that we have to show grace. We have to point people to truth. And sometimes that's difficult. And so this week I pray that we glorify you in our relationships, that we see it as our part to play in helping others become more like you. And so, God, I pray that we become people of prayer, that we are constantly praying for people we can invest in, that we can invite into a relationship to build and to grow. And so, ultimately, God, we want you to work in the life of our church. We want to see more and better followers of Jesus. We want to see more and better disciples. And, God, I recognize that that's going to take us playing a part. That's going to recognize people seeing it as their purpose and responsibility to help others grow. So, God, that's what we pray. We pray for hearts right now that say that I'm going to play a part in building your kingdom here. So God, we love you and thank you for all that you do. Say this in your name. Amen.